قال المصنف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. By the way, though, the text of Abu Shuja' that I'm reading here is different from this text that's been translated that you see on your screen. So you might find slight variance, very little difference, inshallah. But I'm not reading what's on the screen. I'm just putting it there for you to follow along for yourself. I'm translating my own document I have in front of me. قال ويجوز أن يأتم الحر بالعبد. That's where we are here. He says, it is permissible for the freeman to follow the slave. وَالْبَالِغُ بِالْمُرَاهِقِ, and for the pubescent to follow the adolescent. Murahiq, adolescent. Adolescent, if I'm not mistaken, means you're about to be pubescent. That's the murahiq, on the verge of puberty. But it's not a condition to be on the verge of puberty, even less than that. You could follow a child in the prayer if that child can pray validly. 7 years old, 8 years old, 9 years old, that's valid. الشرح يجوز للحر البالغ أن يقتدي بالعبد والصبي. The explanation is that it is permissible for a free pubescent one to follow a slave or a child. نعم الحر أولى من العبد. But yes, a freeman is better to take as an imam than a slave. وَأَمَّا جَوَازُ الِاقْتِدَاءِ بِالصَّبِيِّ, and as for the permissibility of following a child, فَلِأَنَّ عَمْرَ بْنَ سَلِمَةَ رَضِيَ اللَّهُ عَنْهُ كَانَ يَؤُمُّ قَوْمَهُ عَلَى عَهْدِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ. That's proven by the fact that a man named Amr ibn Salima, may Allah accept from him, he used to lead his people in the prayer at the time of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وهو ابن ست أو سبع سنين أو ست أو سبع سنين. He did that when he was only 6 or 7 years old. That's because he was the best reciter among them. رواه البخاري. Al-Bukhari reported that. نعم البالغ أولى من الصبي. Yes, it is true that a pubescent one is better to take as an imam in the prayer than a child. وَإِنْ كَانَ الصَّبِيُّ أَفْقَهُ وَأَقْرَأُ. Even if the child had more knowledge, better to take a pubescent one as an imam. And even if the child has a better recitation, it's better to take the pubescent one as an imam. للإجماع على صحة الاقتداء به بخلاف الصبي. Why that's better? Because there's a consensus that it's valid to follow an adult, and there's not a consensus that it's valid to follow a child. So since there's a consensus in one of those two cases, then that's the one that's better. وهذا كله في الصبي المميز. And all of what we are talking about is concerning the child who has mental discerning, the mumayyiz child, mental discrimination. أما غير المميز فصلاته باطلة لفقدان النية. As for the child who does not have mental discerning, then his prayer is to get altogether invalid because he lacks an intention. Ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan, ahlan wa sahlan. Even to you, ahlan wa sahlan, even to you. I think you know who you are. Barakallahu fikum. Barakallahu fikum. قال المصنف رحمه الله, said the author, may Allah have mercy upon him. ولا يأتم رجل بامرأة ولا قارئ بأمي. And a man cannot follow a woman, nor can someone who can recite follow someone who cannot. الشرح لا يصح اقتداء الرجل بالمرأة. The explanation is that it's not valid for a man to follow a woman in the prayer. بِقَوْلِهِ ta'ala, because of the saying of God Almighty, الرجال قوامون على النساء. It means the men are qawams over the women. So qawam, that's an emphatic form of qa'im. Qa'im means someone who stands up, or it means someone who performs something. Qa'im. So the rijal, the men, are the qawamun over the women. This has a lot of meaning. There's a lot of proof to take from this ayah about the status of the men over the women in some issues, not every issue. When I say over, men over women here, that's not absolute. Remember, when it comes to who's better than the other, then the gauge is piety, not gender, not color, not gender, not age. Piety. We talk about who's better. But when we talk about some responsibilities and some positions, then the men would be over the women. Like in leading the prayer here, that's our subject. So not to go further. So this ayah, when you apply it to the prayer, then it's an evidence that the men lead the prayer for the women and the women don't lead the prayer for the men. وَلِقَوْلِهِ صَلَّى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّمَ أَلَا لَا تَأُمَّنَّ امْرَأَةُ الرَّجُلَ. And because of the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that he said, the woman or a woman must definitely not lead or be the imam of a man in the prayer. Rawahu ibn Majah. This hadith is narrated by Ibn Majah. إِلَّا أَنَّ فِي رِجَالِهِ مَنْ تُكُلِّمَ فِيهِ. But this hadith is criticized. Some of the men of the chain of narration are criticized. So the hadith is therefore criticized. وَلَقُتِدَاءَ الرَّجُلِ بِخُنْثَى مُشْكِلٍ. Nor can a man follow a problematic hermaphrodite. That's the hermaphrodite whose gender is unknown. Hermaphrodite meaning that this human being was created with an extra organ, and some of them add, or sometimes it's added here, and has an equal inclination towards men and women. But really, this person is a man or a woman only. There's only two genders. Allah created الذكر والأنثى, the male and the female. That's it. But there are some people, Allah created them with a deformity, and He gave them an extra organ. Just like you could be created, one might be created with an extra finger or an extra toe or something like that. Some people, Allah created them with an extra private part, and it would be the private part of the other gender. And then, so these people, there's two types of them. Some of them, their genders are clear. They simply have an extra organ, though their genders are clear. What makes their genders clear? That extra organ is useless. It's just there, and they don't even do anything with it. This person's gender is clear. He just has an extra organ. So that one is either a male or a female, and their case is clear. They don't have any special rule there. And this person can get married, is allowed to get married. But the other type is like that first type, except that the gender is not clear. Meaning it's either a male or a female, but the gender is not clear because of how they use those organs. Maybe they use both of them. So it's not clear for them which one, which is what gender the person has. For the person himself, it's not clear. This one is haram for him to get married until gender becomes clear. That's called khuntha mushkil, problematic hermaphrodite. A man cannot follow a problematic hermaphrodite in the prayer. Wala khuntha bimra'atin. And a hermaphrodite, a problematic hermaphrodite, we're going to say hermaphrodite. When we say hermaphrodite, means problematic one. Because if the gender is known, then there's no issue. It's just a person with a deformity, having an extra organ, whose gender is clear. So I'm just going to say hermaphrodite, unless the word mushkil comes, then I'll say problematic. But even if I don't say problematic, that's the one we're talking about. The other one is called khuntha wadih. The one whose gender is clear is called khuntha wadih, clear hermaphrodite, meaning this is really a male or a female, clearly. So, وَلَقُ تِدَاءُ الرَّجُلِ بِخُنْثَى مُشْكِلٍ, nor is it valid for a man to follow a problematic hermaphrodite in the prayer. وَلَا خُنْثَى بِامْرَأَةٍ, nor can a hermaphrodite follow a woman in the prayer because he might be a man. وَلَا بِمُشْكِلٍ, nor can a hermaphrodite follow a problematic hermaphrodite in the prayer because might be that the leader is a woman and the follower is a man. You said, what if one doesn't know if the one leading is a hermaphrodite? So then he thinks he's following a man. So then he's just going to pray behind that one. And he's going to count his prayer as valid because he has no knowledge about that. Just like if he followed a person who doesn't know how to recite and he didn't know, like because it's a prayer where you recite low. Or you maybe even followed a person who's a kafir. He doesn't know that person's a kafir. So he's going to count his prayer as valid. Ameen wa fikum. If a person follows a follower after the jama'ah ends, does the one being followed have to have the intention of being the imam? No. The one being followed never has to have the intention to be the imam unless it's a prayer that can only be prayed in congregation. Is it permissible for the one to act like they are following the imam but really have the intention to pray by themselves? No. Because acting like you're following the imam means you're following the imam. So that's not valid without an intention. Ameen wa fikum. La ilaha illallah. You said, and for the unknown hermaphrodite, do they cover in case they are a woman? Problematic hermaphrodite. The general rule for the problematic hermaphrodite is that they have to do whatever is most precautious. So whenever it's most precautious to act like a woman, then they have to act like a woman. Whenever it's most precautious to act like a man, then they have to act like a man. So for example, it's most precautious when this one is in the presence of men to act like a woman. So this one has to cover in front of the men. Like a woman, cover like a woman in front of the men. And it's most precautious to act like a man concerning golden jewelry. So this one does not wear golden jewelry. That's just an example for you. It goes further than that. Yes. Imagine Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Sometimes when I study the books of those scholars, I say to myself, subhanAllah, they had so much knowledge. MashaAllah. All of that is from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Question. I have a question regarding the Friday prayer. Is missing the Friday prayer due to, for example, school or college a valid excuse? No. An excuse is going to be like, there's excessive mud outside, too much mud outside, or there's an enemy killer. There's a killer, like an enemy or an animal that'll kill you if you go out there, or you're afraid for your property. If you go, you'll get your property stolen, or you're sick, or you're taking care of someone who's sick. Those are cases where it's an excuse. Or you're a traveler. That's an excuse not to pray Jumu'ah. You said, I am not clear. If someone prayed behind the Wahhabiyya, but one does not know about it, one prayer will be valid? If a person does not know that the Imam is a kafir, then he's going to count his prayer as valid. If he finds out, though, that he was a kafir, then he's going to repeat the prayer. But if he never found out, then he would deem his prayer as valid. He said, if someone told him they were Wahhabiyya, but he didn't listen to it, even his prayer would be valid. So he doesn't know that person was a kafir. If he doesn't know that person's a kafir, even saying Wahhabi doesn't mean kafir always. He could be a Wahhabi by affiliation without believing some kufr. So as long as he doesn't know that he's a kafir, then he doesn't have to repeat his prayer. But what you want me to do doesn't mean he's going to know the person's a kafir. Is he going to open up his chest and then know he's a kafir? He doesn't know. If he doesn't know the person was a kafir, then وأما اقتداء القارئ وهو هنا من يحسن الفاتحة بالأمي. Now, as for a reciter, and what's meant here by reciter is someone who can recite the Fatiha validly. As for such a one following an ummi literally means illiterate. Wahua huna, and here meaning in the terminology of the jurists, the ummi here doesn't mean simply illiterate. It means man la yuhsinuha, someone who does not know how to or is not able to recite the Fatiha properly. Let's say does not recite the Fatiha properly. Sometimes a person doesn't recite Fatiha properly because he doesn't know how. And sometimes a person doesn't recite Fatiha properly because he's unable, like if he has a speech problem. فَفِي صِحَّةِ اقْتِدَائِهِ بِهِ قَوْلَانِ. There are two sayings about the validity of following this one. About the one who can recite Al-Fatiha following someone who does not recite Al-Fatiha properly. Al-Jadid al-Azhar la tasih. The new school of Imam Ash-Shafi'i, you know, Shafi'i has two schools, the old school and the new school. The new school of Ash-Shafi'i has the most apparently correct saying, that it's not valid. لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا القوم أقرأهم. A people's imam is the one who can recite the best, the one who is most proficient. أقرأ, the most proficient reciter should be the imam for the people. ويدخل في الأمي الأرت الذي يدغم حرفا في حرف في غير موضع الإدغام. Included in the ummi, that literally means illiterate. So here it means someone who can't recite or does not recite Al-Fatiha. Included in that is the one who's described as arat, arat, A-R-A-T-T, arat. That means the one who stutters, the stutterer, I think say stutterer. الذي يدغم حرفا في حرف في غير موضع الإدغام. That's the one who blends two letters together when it's not a place for doubling letters. Wal alfagh also is the alfagh, alfagh, A-L-T-H-A-G-H, A-L-T-H-A-G-H, alfagh. That means he has a lisp, someone who has a lisp. وهو الذي يبدل حرفا بحرف كالراء بالغين والكاف بالهمزة. He's the one who says one letter in the place of another. Like, instead of saying ra, it says ghain. Instead of saying ra, it says ghain. And instead of saying kaf, so instead of saying ra, he says ghain. And instead of saying kaf, he says hamza. وكذا لا يصح الاقتداء بمن بلسانه رخاوة تمنعه من التشديد. Also, it's not valid to follow someone whose tongue is limp and he cannot double the letters. ثم محل الخلاف هو في من لم يطاوعه لسانه. Furthermore, where the scholars have differed is concerning a person whose tongue does not obey him. He cannot control his tongue and speak the way he wants to. أو طاوعه ولم يمضي زمن يمكن التعلم فيه. Or his tongue does obey him, but he hasn't had the time to learn properly. أما إذا مضى زمن يمكن أن يتعلم فيه. But if there were enough time for this person to learn, enough time passed for this person to be able to learn how to recite. وقصر بترك التعليم, and he was negligent by not acquiring the education. فلا يصح الاقتداء به بلا خلاف. Then it's not valid to follow this one with no difference in opinion. So we're saying the other ones here, someone whose tongue doesn't obey him, or someone, his tongue does obey him, but he hasn't had the time to learn properly. Can you follow him or not? Here they differ. Strong saying is you can't follow this one. But they didn't differ about the one who he did have enough time to learn, but he was negligent. This one you cannot follow. لأن صلاته حينئذ مقضية كصلاة من لم يجد ماء ولا ترابا. Because this one, his prayer is one that has to be made up. That's an important case that maybe a lot of us are missing. Yani, what do you do if you can't recite Fatiha validly? I know a lot of brothers and sisters, they can't recite Fatiha validly and they're negligent in that. I'll never forget the sister who couldn't recite Fatiha after 20 years or more. As far as I know, she passed away like that. May Allah have mercy on her. I mean, subhanallah. I was so surprised when she sat to practice, and I knew her for so many years. She couldn't recite. Yani, very, very, very not good. What's the judgment of this one? If they, because it's not valid. So do they not pray, or what? They have to pray on time, and they have to make those prayers up. Don't forget, there's sometimes when you have to pray on time and still make your prayer up. We did speak about that before. So this one who can't recite properly, you can't follow this one who had enough time to learn and neglected that. You can't follow this one in the prayer because this one's going to have to make up his prayer. And as a rule, it's not valid to follow someone who's going to have to make up his prayer, even if he can recite. As a general rule, there's several cases when a person has to pray on time and still make his prayer up anyway. You cannot take as an imam a person who is going to have to make up the prayer that he's praying right now. Like a person who prayed without finding any water nor any soil. They couldn't find water for wudu nor soil for tayammum. This person prays anyway, according to the Shafi'i school, and will have to make up that prayer later. So you can't follow that person, even if you can recite Fatiha exquisitely. وَيَصِحُّ اقْتِدَاءُ أُمِّيٍّ بِأُمِّيٍّ مِثْلِهِ. It is valid, though, for a person who does not recite correctly to follow a person who does not recite correctly in the same way. If he has the same problem in his recitation, he can follow that one. That's like a woman following a woman. Yani, we're saying if a person couldn't recite a letter for some disability, then another person who has the same disability, he can follow that one in prayer. Branch. لو اقتدى في صلاة سرية بمن لا يعرف هل هو أمي أم لا. If someone followed in a silent prayer someone without knowing if he can recite or not, صحت القدوة. This following is valid. ولا يجب البحث And it is not obligatory to seek or to search to determine if this person can recite validly or not. بل يجوز حمل أمره على الغالب. Rather, it is permissible to assume his case to be like normal. في أنه قارئ كما يجوز حمل الأمر على أنه متطهر. To assume that he can recite just like you can assume that he has wudu. You're not going to say, does he have wudu or not? I don't know. I didn't see him make wudu. Same thing. You're not going to say, I can't hear him recite because it's Dhuhr time, so I'm not going to follow him. You're talking about a person you don't know his case. However, if it becomes clear in the prayer that he cannot recite, if somehow it became clear that he can't recite, then the follower restarts his prayer because it becomes clear for him that his prayer wasn't valid from the beginning. وَإِنِ اقْتَدَى بِهِ فِي صَلَاةٍ جَهْرِيَّةٍ. And if he followed someone in an audible prayer, فَأَسَرَّ. And this one he's following is reciting silently in a prayer that should be audible, like Maghrib or Fajr or Isha. وَجَبَتِ الْإِعَادَةِ. It is obligatory for him to repeat his prayer, the follower. لأن الظاهر أنه لو كان قارئا لجهر. Because what appears is that had he been someone who could recite, he would have raised his voice. Now remember, when I first learned this judgment, soon after I learned that judgment, I saw a brother praying a loud prayer, a prayer that should be prayed aloud. He was not raising his voice. So I didn't join the prayer because I learned the judgment. And his family prayed behind him, and I sat right there, not praying behind him. And as if I could read their faces, as if they were offended that I didn't join the prayer. But that's the rule. Subhanallah wa bihamdi. فلو قال إنما أسررت نسيانا. Now, if that Imam said, I didn't raise my voice because I forgot, أو لكونه جائزة, or I didn't raise my voice because it's not obligatory, لم تجب الإعادة, then it won't be obligatory on the one who followed him to remake his prayer. Wallahu a'lam, and Allah knows best.